how long it takes before your sight comes back. My name is Alice Decker. I'm 26, a systems analyst for a logistics firm, and I used to think love was about proving you're good enough, until I met his mother. Sam and I had been together for almost 2 years. He was 24, easygoing, full of charm and half-finished dreams. He still lived with his mother, Evelyn Thompson, in her pristine two-story house, where the carpet smelled like lavender and quiet judgment. Evelyn was the kind of woman who smiled while she measured you. She didn't ask questions, she assessed. From the moment she shook my hand, she seemed to know exactly what kind of woman I was. The kind that works too hard, saves receipts, and drives a 6-year-old sedan instead of something German and shiny. I still remember the first dinner I had at their house. The roast beef was perfect, the conversation wasn't. So Alice Evelyn began cutting her meat with surgical precision. Sam tells me you work with computer systems analysis, I said politely. Mostly workflow optimization for, very practical, she interrupted, smiling thinly. It's nice to have a safe job. Some people don't like taking risks. Sam laughed awkwardly. I smiled too, though my stomach sank. I told myself she didn't mean it the way it sounded. But Evelyn's words always had two meanings, the polite one for the table and the knife hidden beneath. After dinner, she poured me tea and said, You're lovely, dear. So grounded. Sam could use a little grounding. He's always dreaming too big. I wanted to thank her. Instead, I caught the faintest curve of her lips, that little glint of disapproval that said she didn't mean it as a compliment. From then on, dinners became weekly auditions. I brought flowers. I laughed at her jokes. I complimented her recipes. It didn't matter. I was never enough, too practical, too plain, too comfortable. Vanessa Lee's daughter just bought a condo in the city Evelyn would mention casually over dessert. She's in finance now, doing wonderfully. You remember her, Sam? She used to volunteer with your charity club? He nodded. Yeah, Vanessa's great. Evelyn's eyes flicked toward me. Ambitious girl. I love her energy. I felt it then, the first crack small, but deep. That night I told Sam, Your mom doesn't like me. He sighed. She's just traditional. She'll come around. But I wasn't sure. There was something about the way Evelyn looked at me, as if she was already planning my replacement. Weeks passed. Her comparisons grew sharper. Vanessa just got promoted again, she'd say, pretending to scroll her phone. And look at this picture, she looks radiant. Don't you think so, Sam? He'd nod absently, not noticing how my hands tightened around my glass. Still, I stayed. Because I loved him. Because I believed love could earn approval. Because I thought kindness was currency. One Sunday, Evelyn called while we were cooking breakfast. Her voice was syrupy sweet. Alice, dear, I'd love to have you both over for dinner this Friday. Oh, and Vanessa will be joining us. She's in town for the weekend. My heart skipped. Oh, I said. That's nice. She's practically family, Evelyn said. I think you'll really like her. I hung up slowly, the smell of burnt toast filling the silence. Sam tried to brush it off. She's probably just being polite, but something in his tone told me he wanted to believe that as much as I did. Friday arrived too soon. When Vanessa walked through the door, the air shifted. She was the kind of woman who walked like she owned every room, glossed hair, confident posture, expensive perfume. Evelyn greeted her with a hug that lasted too long, her voice high and delighted. Vanessa. Darling, it's been ages. The dinner that followed could have been mistaken for an audition. Vanessa talked about her new position in a finance firm, her trip to Miami, her upcoming investment project. Evelyn was enchanted. Sam laughed a little too often. I sat there smiling, shrinking. Every compliment for Vanessa was an unspoken criticism of me. When I tried to join in, Evelyn cut across with practiced ease. Alice, you wouldn't believe the risks Vanessa's taking with her career. It's so inspiring. I forced a smile. Yes, very brave. She's got such drive, Evelyn added, glancing my way. Don't you think, Sam? He nodded, not noticing the tension tightening around my chest. By dessert, I'd memorized Vanessa's resume. Evelyn leaned in, chin resting on her hand. Sam, dear you. And Vanessa should exchange numbers. Maybe she could teach you a thing or two about investing. My fork froze. Mom. Sam said, laughing awkwardly. Alice is right here. Oh, I didn't mean anything by it, Evelyn said smoothly. Just friendly networking. But her eyes told a different story. Later that night, I stood in the bathroom staring at my reflection. My mascara had smudged slightly. My lipstick had faded. I looked tired. Not unpretty, just ordinary. Evelyn would call that practical. Vanessa would call it uninspired. When Sam came in, I asked softly, "Did you notice how your mom kept comparing me to her?" He rubbed his neck. "You're overthinking it." "Am I?" "She just admires ambition." I turned to face him. "And you don't think I have any?" He hesitated too long before saying, "Not like Vanessa." That silence after his words, that was the sound of something breaking quietly inside me. I smiled instead. "I hope she teaches you how to invest then." He frowned. "Don't be like that." "Like what? Jealous?" I laughed once, a sharp sound that didn't feel like mine. "You'll know when I'm jealous, Sam. Right now I'm just tired." When I got home that night, I opened my phone and scrolled through Vanessa's public Instagram. There they were, pictures from dinner, already posted. Evelyn tagged Sam, laughing in the corner of the frame. The caption read, "Great dinner with inspiring people." In the middle of that photo, I saw it the way Vanessa leaned slightly toward Sam, and the way Evelyn's proud smile sealed the like it. I just stared at it until my reflection dimmed on the screen, thinking how quiet betrayal can look when it's dressed like ambition. That night I couldn't sleep. The words kept echoing: practical, safe, comfortable. All the things I used to believe were good. I didn't know it then, but that dinner was the last night I'd still believe I was part of that family. After that, I'd stop trying to fit into their world and start learning how to rebuild mine. The next Friday, I almost canceled. Evelyn's voice over the phone had been too cheerful, the kind that promised discomfort wrapped in civility. But Sam had begged me, "It'll mean a lot if you come. Mom's trying." Trying. That word again. I wore a navy dress, simple but elegant. Not too flashy, not too plain. I spent 20 minutes choosing earrings and another 20, convincing myself I didn't care what Evelyn thought. By the time we pulled into her driveway, I'd already rehearsed my smile 100 times. Evelyn greeted us at the door, perfume-heavy diamonds catching the hallway light. "Oh, Alice, you look nice," she said. Her eyes swept from my shoes to my hair. "That color is practical." "Thank you," I said, swallowing the rest of the sentence I wanted to add. Vanessa arrived moments later, bringing the scent of something expensive and floral. She wore white, an intentional kind of purity. Her heels clicked confidently against the marble floor. Evelyn's face lit up like a chandelier. "Vanessa, darling." "You remember Sam, of course." "Of course," she said, her smile dazzling. "And you must be Alice." She extended her hand like a queen greeting a courtier. "I've heard so much about you. Hopefully good things," I said. Her eyes sparkled. "Oh, the best." At dinner, Evelyn positioned the seating as if she were casting a play. Vanessa sat directly beside Sam. I was across from them, in perfect view of their laughter. The table was set with silverware so polished I could see my reflection warped and thin. Conversation flowed easily between the three of them. Stocks travel future opportunities. Every word felt like a subtle reminder of the world I didn't belong to. When I tried to contribute, Evelyn would nod politely, then redirect. "That's nice, dear. Anyway, Vanessa, tell us more about that investment project you mentioned." Sam leaned forward, genuinely intrigued. I watched him laugh in a way I hadn't seen in weeks, open, easy, fascinated. He looked alive. And for the first time, I realized he didn't look at me that way anymore. Halfway through dessert, Vanessa laughed at something Sam said, touching his arm lightly. He didn't pull away. Evelyn noticed, of course. She didn't stop it. She refilled Vanessa's glass and said, "You two make such a dynamic pair, so much energy in the room." I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. My spoon clinked against the plate, louder than I meant it to. When the evening finally ended, I helped gather dishes while Evelyn hummed. "She's impressive, isn't she?" she said, rinsing a plate. "Vanessa? Mm-hmm. So independent, so ambitious. Reminds me of myself at her age." I smiled thinly. "I can see that." She turned water dripping from her hands. "Alice, dear Sam has such potential. He just needs someone who helps him dream bigger." "Are you saying I don't? I'm saying he deserves a partner who matches his drive." "You're steady, which is lovely. But steady doesn't build empires." The words landed like stones in my stomach. When I came back into the living room, Vanessa was showing Sam pictures of her condo renovation on her phone. Evelyn stood behind them, smiling like a proud matchmaker. That was the moment I knew something irreversible had started. The drive home was silent for the first 10 minutes. Finally, I said, "So Vanessa's impressive." Sam chuckled nervously. "Yeah, she's doing well. Your mom couldn't stop singing her praises. She just likes successful people. You know how she is. Does she?" I looked out the window. "Or does she just like successful women near you?" He sighed. "Come on, Alice, don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm asking if you noticed how she treats me. She's trying to help. She just wants me to have a good future. And I don't fit into that picture, right?" "Don't twist my words. I don't have to." The red light cast his face in a harsh glow. He turned to me, jaw tight. "You're always so defensive when it comes to her. Because she's constantly undermining me, Sam. You just don't see it. She's not the enemy, Alice. You take everything personally. Maybe because it is personal when your mother invites another woman to dinner and calls her ambitious in front of me." He didn't respond. The light turned green. The silence stretched. When we finally parked outside my apartment, I reached for the door handle. "Alice, wait," he said. "Vanessa's not competition." I laughed softly. "Then why does it feel like I'm losing a game I didn't agree to play?" That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed beside me. Sam's message. "I love you. Don't let my mom get to you." I stared at the words, wondering which part hurt more, the love that sounded like pity, or the fact that he didn't say anything about Vanessa. I scrolled through social media, half out of masochism, half curiosity. There it was again, Vanessa's newest post. A group photo from dinner Evelyn tagged. Caption. "Some dinners remind you how much potential is in the room." Sam had liked it. My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't cry. Not yet. Instead, I whispered into the darkness, "You're not losing him, Alice. He's giving himself away." Days passed. Sam started canceling plans. Work's busy, he'd text. Or Vanessa's introducing me to a contact. It could help my career. The messages came with less warmth, fewer emojis. "No, I miss you." I found myself checking my phone less, then checking it more, then hating that I cared at all. At work, my coworkers noticed the change. "You okay?" one asked gently. "I'm fine," I lied. But my reflection in the monitor looked pale, brittle, and older than 26. The next Sunday, Evelyn called again. "Alice, dear, I'm hosting dinner next weekend. Vanessa will be there again. It would be nice if you came." I hesitated. "I don't think she's bringing a friend in real estate," Evelyn cut in. "You could learn a lot from her." The phone line buzzed with her condescension. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "You're right, Evelyn. I could learn a lot from this entire experience." She paused, confused. "What do you mean, dear? I mean I won't be coming. Have a lovely evening." And before she could respond, I hung up. That night, Sam texted Mom, "Says you're being distant." "Did something happen?" I typed, deleted, retyped, and finally sent, just realizing some dinners aren't worth attending. He didn't reply. Weeks later, a new photo appeared on my feed, Vanessa and Sam side by side at some rooftop bar, his arm around her waist. "Evelyn's on you." For a long time, I just stared at the picture. Then calmly, I deleted his number. It felt like a small death and the first breath of freedom. They say the end of a relationship happens long before the breakup. You feel it first in the silence between messages, the absence of laughter, the way someone's eyes stop meeting yours. For me, it started the moment ambitious became a compliment and comfortable became an insult. A month after that dinner, Sam and I still hadn't officially broken up, but I could feel it, the gap between us widening with every conversation. He started talking about Vanessa the way people talk about a podcast they can't stop listening to. "She's helping me think bigger," he'd say. "She's really inspiring." And every time I'd smile like I wasn't bleeding inside. One night I brought over Thai takeout, the kind we used to share during movie marathons. But he barely looked up from his laptop. "She's got me thinking about starting my own business," he said. "Vanessa?" I asked, setting down the food. "Yeah. She says comfort zones are cages. You know, you get too used to stability, and suddenly you stop dreaming." "Comfort zones," I repeated slowly. "That's what she calls being happy." He frowned. "Don't twist it, Jules. She's just ambitious," I finished for him. He sighed. "You always get defensive when I talk about her. I get defensive when the woman your mother adores suddenly becomes your new career coach." He shook his head. "You just don't get it." No, I did get it. I just didn't want to admit what it meant. We ate in silence, the air thick with unspoken things. When he kissed me goodnight that evening, his lips felt like a habit, not affection. Evelyn's birthday came 2 weeks later. Against my better judgment, I went. Maybe I wanted to prove I still belonged. Maybe I just wanted closure. The restaurant was upscale white tablecloths, waiters in black vests, champagne flutes already waiting at each seat. Vanessa was there. Of course she was. She looked radiant in red, the color of victory. Evelyn beamed when she saw her. "Oh, I'm so glad you could make it, dear." Then to me, "Alice, you're here too. How nice." "Happy birthday," I said, handing her a small box, handmade candles I'd spent hours picking out. She smiled without warmth, so thoughtful. Her eyes shifted to Vanessa's gift bag, glossy and gold. "Oh, you shouldn't have," she exclaimed, genuine delight this time. The seating arrangement was no accident. Sam beside Vanessa, me at the far end near Evelyn's cousin, who talked endlessly about her cat's digestive issues. From my seat, I watched Evelyn laugh too loudly at Vanessa's jokes, Sam leaning close to whisper something in her ear, the faint brush of her hand on his sleeve. It was all polite, subtle, like a play, for people too proud to admit their parts. At one point, Evelyn stood to toast. "To the people who inspire us to be better, to growth ambition, and the courage to go after what we truly deserve." Everyone clinked glasses. I took a slow sip, pretending the champagne didn't burn going down. After dinner, Sam offered to drive me home. The car ride was thick with silence until I said quietly, "That was humiliating." He frowned. "What was your mom treating me like an afterthought while she fawns over Vanessa?" "You're overreacting. Am I?" She literally toasted to ambition and courage while looking directly at her. "She wasn't talking about you. That's exactly my point." He exhaled sharply. "You always make everything about what my mom says. Because what she says affects you, and then it affects us." He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Maybe you just don't understand what ambition looks like." I laughed bitterly. "So now I'm unambitious because I don't worship Vanessa's career path." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." The streetlight flickered through the windshield, cutting his face into halves, one guilty, one cold. Then he said the sentence that split my heart in two. "Maybe I need someone who challenges me." I turned toward him slowly. "You mean someone your mother approves of?" He didn't answer. I stared out the window, fighting back the tears that blurred the city lights. When he finally parked outside my building, I said softly, "You already had someone who challenged you, Sam. You just couldn't handle that she did it quietly." I got out before he could reply. He didn't follow. 2 days later, he texted, "Maybe we should take a break. I need to figure out who I am and what I want." I stared at the message until my screen dimmed. "Figure out who you are," I thought. "You already did. You're your mother's son." I didn't reply that night, or the next. When I finally did, I simply wrote, "Take all the time you need." Then I set my phone face down and deleted our photos. Weeks blurred together. He stopped calling. I stopped hoping. I threw myself into work, into long walks home, into podcasts about self-worth and boundaries that I barely listened to. Some nights I'd see his car pass my street and wonder if he even thought of me anymore. Other nights I'd scroll through Vanessa's posts until I hated myself for caring. Then one afternoon my coworker Tia glanced over my shoulder and said softly, "You've seen this right," on her phone. Vanessa and Sam again. Smiling, holding champagne. Caption, "When ambition meets destiny, hashtag power couple." My heart didn't shatter this time. It just went quiet, like a light that knew it wasn't needed anymore. That night, I stood by my window, city lights flickering like distant promises. Maybe Evelyn was right. Maybe I wasn't ambitious enough for their world. But ambition without empathy, what did that build except emptiness? I whispered it aloud to no one but the night comfort isn't a crime. And for the first time, I almost believed it. 6 months. That's how long it took for silence to stop hurting. Not because I stopped loving him, but because the version of him I loved didn't exist anymore. By then, I'd built a rhythm again, work gym dinner for one quiet nights, with no one's approval to earn. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful. And after everything, peace felt like luxury. Then one morning, while scrolling through my feed during coffee, I saw them. Sam and Vanessa. Matching designer outfits, champagne glasses in hand. Caption, "Building our empire together. Hashtag power couple. Hashtag ambition." Underneath. "So proud of you both. Love you, my darlings." I stared at that photo until my coffee went cold. Not out of jealousy, that emotion had burned out months ago, but something quieter, heavier. Pity, maybe, or recognition. Because in that picture, their smiles didn't reach their eyes. A few weeks later, I ran into an old mutual friend, Emma, at a cafe near my office. We hadn't spoken since the breakup, not out of hostility, just the quiet division that happens when sides are chosen. She hesitated before speaking. Alice, can I tell you something? I smiled faintly. If it's about Sam, probably not. She looked down, fidgeting with her cup. I think something's wrong. With him. With them. I froze. What do you mean? Emma glanced around, lowered her voice. I saw them at Megan's birthday last weekend. Vanessa wouldn't let Sam out of her sight. He barely talked to anyone. She kept interrupting him, correcting what he said. I forced a small laugh. Maybe that's just her personality. No, she said, her tone firm now. He looked scared, Alice. I know that sounds dramatic, but something's off. I wanted to tell her to stop, to leave me out of it. But part of me, the stupid, compassionate part, still cared. Later that night, I couldn't stop replaying what Emma said. Sam scared the man who once accused me of being too comfortable. The irony would have been funny if it didn't feel so bitter. I poured a glass of wine and scrolled through Vanessa's feed again. Gone were the constant selfies, the couple photos, the hashtags about ambition. Her last post was over a month old, a close-up of her hand holding a glass of wine. Caption: sometimes strength means staying silent. The thing in me twisted. I closed the app. I told myself it wasn't my problem. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a message from Evelyn. Just her name on my screen made my chest tighten. Against better judgment, I opened it. Evelyn Alice. I know you don't owe me anything, but could we talk? It's about Sam. I stared at it for a long time before replying. I don't think that's a good idea. She called anyway. I didn't answer. Then she left a voicemail. Her voice, once polished and superior, sounded small. Alice, I was wrong about you, about everything. Please, he's not okay. That night I dreamt of the old Sam, the one who'd bring me coffee just the way I liked it, the one who called me his calm in the storm. And I woke up angry, angry that even after everything, his ghost still had space in my mind. By morning I decided to ignore it, until Emma called. Alice, she said, breathless, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing telling you this, but I think Vanessa's hurting him. My stomach dropped. Hurting him how? He showed up at my place yesterday. He had bruises on his arm. He said he fell, but... Finger marks, I whispered. Yes. She exhaled shakily. I think he's trapped, Alice. Vanessa's controlling everything. His money, his phone, even his friends. He's cut off from everyone. For a long moment I couldn't speak. Then I said quietly, he chose her. I know, Emma replied, but I thought you'd want to know. That night I sat in bed, phone in hand, staring at our old messages. The last thing I'd ever sent him was, take all the time you need. And he had. Time to realize the difference between ambition and abuse, between control and connection. I typed out a dozen messages. Are you okay? Do you need help? I heard what's happening, but I didn't send any of them. Because if I reached out, it wouldn't be about helping him. It would be about proving something to myself. And I was done performing for people who only remembered me when their lives fell apart. A week later, I saw a message request on my screen. From Sam. Hey, how are you? I froze. 6 months of silence, and suddenly that. I waited an hour before replying. I'm fine. Hope you're okay. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Can we talk sometime? My hands trembled. About what? About us. About everything. I made a mistake, Alice. Please, just coffee. I stared at that message until my reflection blurred in the screen. Part of me wanted to see him to understand what had happened. But another part, the wiser, calmer part, knew exactly what this was. I typed one final message. I don't think that's a good idea, Sam. And then I locked my phone, turned off the lights, and whispered to the darkness. Some people only remember your worth when theirs disappears. But that was just the beginning. Because once you tell a ghost to stay gone, it always finds a way to knock again. It started with small things, like on one of my posts, a view on my LinkedIn profile, a friend casually mentioning, hey, I think Sam's been asking about you. At first I ignored it, but curiosity is cruel. It doesn't knock, it whispers. Then one Tuesday night, my phone buzzed again. Sam. Can we talk? I stared at the message, heart steady but cold. Me. About what? Sam, I made a huge mistake. Please, just coffee. I didn't respond that night. I didn't sleep much either. By morning, 3 more messages waited. I know I hurt you. You didn't deserve that. Vanessa isn't who I thought she was. I read them all, then deleted the thread. But guilt has a way of clawing its way back into your life, even when it's not yours. 2 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. When I picked up, a voice I hadn't heard in almost a year said my name like it was a confession. Alice, it's Evelyn. I froze. How did you get my number? Emma gave it to me. Please don't hang up. What do you want? Her voice cracked, not the polished tone I remembered, but the sound of a woman stripped of her certainty. It's Sam. He's in trouble. The words hit me harder than I expected. I didn't speak. I just listened as she rushed on. He's not the same. Vanessa isolated him from me, from everyone. She controls his accounts, his phone. He barely eats. She yells, Alice. I've heard her. I swallowed. Then call the police. Or a counselor. You're his mother. I tried. He won't listen to me. He trusts you. Please, he needs someone he believes in. I almost laughed. Believes in Evelyn, he left me for her. Her voice wavered. I know. And I pushed him. I told him Vanessa was better for him. I was wrong. I was so wrong. For a long moment, all I heard was her sobbing quietly. The sound should have satisfied me some vindication after the humiliation she'd made me endure, but instead I felt nothing. Just a hollow ache. Evelyn, I said finally, I'm sorry this is happening, but it's not my place anymore. Alice, please, don't let pride. This isn't pride, I interrupted softly. It's peace. And I ended the call. That night I couldn't stop replaying her words. He trusts you. Did he? Or did Evelyn just want me to clean up the mess she created? I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the rain streak across the glass. It reminded me of that last night with Sam when he told me he needed someone more ambitious. Back then I'd cried. Now I just exhaled. I whispered to myself, you can care without going back. But part of me wondered if that was true. By the weekend, the messages returned, this time longer, desperate. Sam, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just need you to know I see it now. I was blind. Vanessa isn't ambitious. She's controlling. She's violent. She's destroyed everything. Then a voice note. I didn't want to play it, but I did. His voice was shaky, tired, small. Jules, I messed up. I thought she was what I wanted. Excitement drive something different, but she's cruel. You were steady safe. I thought that meant boring, but it meant love. I didn't see it until it was gone. I sat there, phone against my chest, and for a split second I almost pitied him. Almost. Days passed. More messages followed, some apologetic, others pleading. Then one evening, a knock at my door. When I opened it, he was standing there, thinner, pale eyes hollow, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. He held no flowers, no smile, just regret. Alice, he said, voice trembling, please don't close the door. I haven't said I'll let you in. He swallowed hard. I didn't know where else to go. I crossed my arms. You had options once. Remember, his face crumpled. I remember everything. I stepped aside wordlessly. He walked in slowly like a man entering a confession booth. The air between us was thick with the ghosts of things unsaid. He looked around my apartment, same couch, same frame photos, except one was missing. Our photo. Place looks the same, he murmured. It is, I said. You're the one who changed. He sat, exhaling shakily. Vanessa. She's not who she pretended to be. Controlling, jealous, violent. She broke my phone once because I texted Emma about work. And yet I said quietly, you stayed. I thought I could fix it. I thought if I worked harder, I cut him off. You sound exactly like I did when I was trying to please your mother. He looked down. I know. I thought you were small because you wanted peace. I didn't realize peace was strength. For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. But then memory did its job, reminding me of every time he'd made me feel like I wasn't enough. Sam, I said finally, I'm sorry for what you went through, truly. But you made choices, and those choices have consequences. He flinched. So that's it. Yes, I said simply. That's it. He looked at me desperate. You're cold. No, I whispered. I'm healed. He blinked, tears forming. I miss who we were. So do I said softly. But she doesn't live here anymore, and neither does he. We stood there for a long moment, the sound of rain filling the silence. Finally, I opened the door. You should go, Sam. He hesitated. Will you ever forgive me? I already did, I said. That's how I know I'll never let you back in. He stepped out into the rain. I closed the door, leaned against it, and let out a breath that had been stuck in my chest for 2 years. Outside, the rain fell harder, washing everything clean, even the ghost of what once was. For weeks after that night, he kept trying a text here, a voicemail there. Never angry, just desperate. But desperation isn't love. It's guilt-wearing perfume. I didn't answer. He'd had his chance to fight for me when it mattered. Now I owed him nothing. Not comfort, not closure, not a soft place to land after the storm he walked into willingly. Then, one rainy Saturday, I saw him again. I was walking back from the market umbrella half broken against the wind. When I turned onto my street there, he was sitting on the steps to my apartment, soaked to the bone, a duffel bag beside him. He stood as soon as he saw me. Alice. Sam. My voice was calm, practiced. He looked smaller somehow, not just thinner, but folded, like someone who'd run out of pride. I didn't know where else to go, he said, his voice barely above the rain. I stared at him for a moment. You could have gone to your mother. She doesn't speak to me anymore, not since I left Vanessa. I blinked, surprised, despite myself. You left her? He nodded, for good. It took a lot. She didn't take it well. He shifted his sleeve, then, almost unconsciously, and I saw the faint bruise near his wrist. Something in my stomach twisted, but I didn't let it show. Come inside, I said, finally stepping aside, just until the rain stops. He sat on the couch, dripping onto the rug. I handed him a towel and tea. He took both wordlessly. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the ticking of the wall clock, steady, indifferent. Finally, he whispered, You were right about everything. I sighed. That's not something you should say, like a compliment. He looked up, eyes rimmed red. I thought you'd be happy I realized it. Realization doesn't undo the damage, Sam. It just means you finally caught up to what I already knew. He swallowed hard. I keep thinking about that night. When you said you were tired, I thought you were being dramatic. But now I get it. Loving someone who won't see you is exhausting. Something in me softened, not enough to open old doors, but enough to remember we'd once loved each other. I don't hate you, I said quietly, but I don't owe you my comfort either. He nodded, eyes glistening. I just wanted you to know I see it now, what I lost. I looked at him steady. You didn't lose me, Sam. You gave me away. That broke him. He covered his face, shoulders shaking. The sound was raw, not the polished regret of someone trying to make amends, but the ugly humankind that comes too late. I stood walked to the window, watching the rain smear the city lights. When you left, I said softly, I kept asking myself what I did wrong. Was I too safe, too predictable, not enough excitement? But now I know. I wasn't the problem. Your idea of love was. He didn't argue. Maybe he couldn't. When I turned back, he was staring at the teacup in his hands like it held the answer to something. He whispered, You were my peace. I smiled faintly. You mistook peace for boredom. That's on you. He stayed until the rain stopped. When he stood to leave, his duffel bag looked heavier than before. At the door he turned. You're really not letting me back in, are you? I shook my head. You don't get to come home after burning it down. His throat worked. I wish I could undo it. I know, I said gently, but you can't. He lingered a second longer, as if waiting for me to change my mind. When I didn't, he stepped into the drizzle, pulling his hood over his head. I watched him walk away, the gray light swallowing his figure, until he was just another shadow moving through the city. And for the first time, I didn't ache. I didn't hope. I didn't imagine a what if. All I felt was a strange kind of stillness, the kind that comes when you finally stop bleeding. That night, I wrote a note in my journal. Closure isn't an apology. It's a door you lock yourself. Then I went to bed early. The rain had stopped, but its smell lingered clean, quiet, forgiving. For the first time in years, I slept without dreaming of him. A year passed. Time didn't heal everything. It just rearranged the pain into smaller, quieter corners of my life. I'd moved apartments, gotten promoted, and learned how to enjoy mornings again. Coffee without anxiety, music without memory. The city hadn't changed, but I had. Sometimes I'd pass couples on the street and feel that familiar tug nostalgia mixed with relief. I'd loved once with both hands open, and that love had burned me. But it also taught me what peace feels like when it finally returns. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday. I was waiting in line for coffee before work when a voice behind me said my name. Alice. I turned. Evelyn. For a second, I thought I was imagining her same pearls, same perfect posture, but older now, her eyes tired. Evelyn, I said evenly, it's been a while. She smiled faintly. You look well. I am. She hesitated. Sam told me you wouldn't talk to him. He's rebuilding his life. Slowly. I hope he is. She looked at me for a long moment, maybe searching for the bitterness she expected. When she didn't find it, she sighed. You were good for him, Alice. I see that now. I nodded. I know. The barista called my name. I picked up my cup, turned to her once more. Evelyn, do me a favor. Yes. Next time you meet a girl who doesn't fit your expectations, don't try to fix her. She might be the only person who ever loves your son for who he really is. Her eyes glistened. You really did love him. I did, I said softly. That's how I know when to let him go. And then I left her there, standing in a coffee shop that smelled like regret. That evening, I met Ethan, the man I'd been seeing for 3 months. He was an architect, thoughtful, calm, the kind of man who didn't need chaos to feel alive. When he talked, he looked at me, not his phone. When he laughed, it was genuine. He asked, rough day? Not really. I smiled. Just a ghost from the past. He chuckled. The haunting kind or the lesson kind? Lesson, I said, reaching for his hand. We sat there watching the city lights flicker beyond the glass. He told me about his next project, about building homes that feel warm instead of just impressive. And I realized this was it. This was what it meant to be chosen, not tolerated. Ethan never called me comfortable. He called me steady. He said it like it was strength, not shame. A few weeks later, I got a message from Emma. He's dating someone new, a teacher. Kind girl. Looks like he's doing better. I stared at the message for a moment, then smiled. Good for him, I replied, and I meant it. Because some stories don't need revenge. They just need release. One Sunday morning, I found myself in my new apartment, barefoot sunlight spilling across the floor. I brewed coffee, opened my balcony door, and just stood there, feeling the wind on my face. A year ago, I was begging for someone to choose me. Now I understood that I only needed to choose myself. I picked up my phone, opened my journal app, and wrote, Peace doesn't sparkle. It hums quietly. It's not found in excitement or ambition or someone else's validation. It's found in knowing that comfortable isn't boring, it's safe, earned, and deserved. Then I smiled, whispered the final line aloud, just for me. Comfort, after all, fits just right. Sometimes love teaches you through pain. Sometimes it returns to test if you've healed. And sometimes it just fades, leaving behind the calm you didn't know you were craving. So tell me, if someone who left you came back, would you open the door or let the rain wash them away? Leave your